Jayanti Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Para Paramhamsa Parivajikacharya Stotarishata Shri Srimadabhaya Charya Ravina Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayanti Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Para Paramhamsa Parivajikacharya Stotarishata Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Ko Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Gange Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. Oh glorious Samudavaris, oh glorious Samudavaris, oh glorious Samudavaris, oh glorious to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, oh glorious to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prashadini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat. Welcome everybody to this morning's Bhagavatam class. We're beginning the new chapter, chapter 12, and we're going to go through text 1 to 3. Repeat after me. Maitreya Uvacha Dhruvam Nivrittam Pratibhudya Vaishyasad Apita Munyam Bhagavam Dhaneshwaraha Tatra Gatas Charanab Yaksha Kinarehi Samstu Yamano Nyavadat Kritanjalim Maitreya Uvacha Dhruvam Nivritam Pradibhutya Vaishyasad Apita Manyum Bhagavan Dhaneshwaraha Tatra Gatas Charana Yaksha Kinare Samstu Yamano Nyavadat Kirtanjalim Maitreya Uvacha Dhruvam Nivritam Pratibhutya Vaishyasad Apita Munyam Bhagavan Dhaneshwaraha Tatra Gatas Charana Yaksha Kinnarai Shamsthu Yamano Nyavadat Kritanjalim. Vaishnavas. Maitreya Uvacha Dhruvam Nivritam Pratibhutya Vaishyasad Dhruvam Nivritam Pratibhutya Vaishyasad Apita Munyam Bhagavan Dhaneshwara Tatra Tascharana Yaksha Kinnare Samskiyam Paranjalim Maitreya Uvacha Dhruvam Nivritam Pratibhutya Vaishyasad Apita Munyam Bhagavan Dhaneshwara Tarkascharana Yaksha Kinnare Samstum Yamano Navadat Pitanjalim Maitreya Uvacha nivritam pratibhutya vaishasa apeta munyam bhagavandaneshwara tatra gajascharana yaksha kinnare samstutyamano nivajat kinjarim raichaya urvacha dhruvam nivritam pratibhutya vaishyasar apeta munyam bhagavandaneshwara tatra katascharana yaksha kinnare samstu yamano navyat kritanjalam. Okay, I'll read the translation. The great sage Maitreya said, "My dear Vidura, Dhruva Maharaj's anger subsided and he completely ceased killing yakshas. When Kuvera, the most blessed master of the treasury, learned this news, he appeared before Dhruva. While being worshipped by yakshas, kinnaras and charanas, he spoke to Dhruva Maharaj, who stood before him with folded hands." So I think we'll go once through the text of 2 and 3 together, and we'll also do the translations. Repeat after me. Dhanana uvacha bhobaho kshatriya dhayada paritushto smite nagaha yatvam patam ahad deshad veram dushyajam atyajaha. Translation. The master of the treasury Kuvera said, "O sinless son of a Kshatriya, I am very glad to know that under the instructions of your grandfather you have given up your enmity, although it is very difficult to avoid. I am very pleased with you." Okay, text 3. Nabhavan avadid yakshan na yaksha britaram tava kala eva hi bahutanam prabhu apaya bhavayo. Translation. Actually, you have not killed the yakshas, nor have they killed your brother, for the ultimate cause of generation and annihilation is the eternal time feature of the Supreme Lord. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. When the master of the treasury addressed him as sinless, Dhruva Maharaj considered himself responsible for killing so many yakshas. Might have thought himself otherwise. Kuvera, however, assured him that actually he had not killed any of the yakshas, therefore he was not at all sinful. He did his duty as a king, as it is ordered by the laws of nature. Quote, "Nor should you think that your brother was killed by the yakshas," said Kuvera. "He died or was killed in due course of time by the laws of nature. Eternal time, one of the features of the Lord, is ultimately responsible for annihilation and generation. You are not responsible for such actions." Yeah, sorry, I'm not used to the procedure of doing 3 texts, so I forgot to do the word for word and certain things. I apologize for that. Yes, I'll just go into the Mangalachara. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitanyena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupap Karamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savautatam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Goratvishai Namah Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. So all of you in the assembly, thank you for having me and forgive me any mistakes I make in the process of this class. I will try my best to not make any offenses, but I'm very conditioned, so I'm likely to do so. So we're beginning this chapter, and it's such a beautiful chapter. Dhruva Maharaj is concluding his earthly pastimes, and he's heading back to Godhead. And so he's just concluded his conversation with Swayambhuva Maharaj, who has helped subdue Dhruva's anger. And now we are moving forward past this point. And since we are concluding the pastimes of Dhruva Maharaj in this chapter, I thought it would be nice to do some lessons from the history of Dhruva Maharaj that we can take away. I recently read this beautiful book, Meditation, by Dhruta Karma Das and Archita Das and Dravida Das. They collaborated together, they went through Dhruva Maharaj's pastimes in this book, and at the end of the pastimes they had a couple of takeaways from the chapter which I thought were really beneficial, some lessons, and kind of in a dot point form, which I'll try and elaborate on a little bit. So the first thing that they wrote was, to achieve our goals in life, we should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead and no one else. So when Suniti, Dhruva Maharaj came to Suniti, and he was completely distraught, having been told some very nasty words that he had been birthed out of the womb of almost like an irrelevant mother, is what Suruchi was saying. Suruchi was quite puffed up in her position, and she, seeing Dhruva Maharaj trying to climb onto the throne to play with his father, she saw this, and in her mind, because her heart was full of envy, she goes, if Dhruva Maharaj can, if little Dhruva can sit on the throne on the same level as my son, well, that means that I'm on the same level as Suniti, and I'm not on the same level as Suniti. I'm the favored wife here, and so I cannot allow this. So she heavily chastised Dhruva, and basically said, I'm the prized possession of your father, and only my son can play on the throne with, and you can't. you should, if you really want to come to the throne, you should worship the Supreme to attain this goal. And so Suniti basically actually promotes Suruchi's instructions. She goes, okay, Suruchi is correct. If you want to attain this goal, you should worship the Supreme, because as we know, the Supreme is the only means by which we can attain anything. Akama sarvakamo va moksha kama udharadhi tivrena bhakti yogena yajita purusham param. One with broad intelligence, whether full of material desires or without, or desiring liberation, must worship the Supreme Lord. This is from Canto 2, Chapter 3, text 10, I believe. And so this is clearly saying that, if the Lord is the fulfiller of desires, and He is the granter of all desires and all boons. So no matter where you're coming from, whether you're hankering to improve your material life, whether you're wanting to become liberated from less suffering of material life to a more pleasurable material experience, or whether you want to go to the abode of the Lord in a mood of loving devotion, you must worship the Supreme Lord. And so Suniti speaks these words to Dhruva. So Prabhupada in text 32 of this chapter later on, there's some beautiful purports where he speaks so humbly and from the heart. And he was speaking on Sunuti being Dhruva's Pata Parakshaka Guru, or like a Shiksha Guru of sorts, because essentially she pointed him towards the path of worshipping the Lord. And he actually elaborates. He says ultimately, like, Shiksha, Diksha, they're non-different at the end of the day, and sometimes your Shiksha becomes your Diksha. He says this in the purport. And they have a very, powerful position. They have a very, because they often come at a time, they're teachers sent by the Lord, and they come at a time where are most lost, and we might not necessarily have the adhikara for a Diksha Guru who's directly giving us grace and mercy, but Krishna sends this Shiksha Guru such as Suniti in moments like this, and is greatly helpful. She could have said anything to Dhruva. She could have even gone and chastised Suruchi and kind of matched that envy, but she chose to go the humble route. And even one of the first things she says when she's addressing Dhruva is, those who hurt others are hurting from that same pain. Is one of the first lessons she gives Dhruva. She goes, and so this is a beautiful approach, because it immediately comes into a forgiving, compassionate mindset, which is the only way to truly move forward. I've heard many Guru Maharajas say that, like, forgiveness is freedom. So, we don't have to forget, and Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita says we don't have to forget, but we remember in a way that doesn't hurt us, and forgiveness gives us freedom in that sense, and compassion also for those who are hurting others, because in fact they're hurting themselves the most. Even if you just want to look at it from the laws of karma, if you hit someone, one day you yourself will be hit. This is why we have these depictions in the Bhagavad Gita of someone in a slaughterhouse attempting to slaughter a cow, and in this depiction it's quite vivid. the head of the cow is on the human, and the human's head is on the cow. And this is showing, like, ultimately, like, if you choose to be malicious, one day someone will be malicious towards you. So the path of yoga is, firstly, you're trying to, you know, do things that are good to get rid of your karma, but ultimately there's a point to where you don't want to be just accruing good karma. You just want to be empty of karma entirely, and you just want to be a non-envious being walking in the world in a mood of service. Later on in this chapter, I was reading that you cannot enter into Vaikuntha until you have become a selfless servant of earth, of this earthly plane, because it's impossible to enter Vaikuntha if you're an envious being. If you have envy in your heart, naturally you're thinking selfishly, and you're still in this conception of I and mine, which is the whole basis of this conversation with Swayambhuva Manu and Dhruva Maharaj, is breaking out of this conception of I am the doer, and it is mine, and this is my family, and I have been hurt in this process, so therefore I am going to seek some kind of vengeance, or you know, avenge my lost brother, Dhruva Maharaj's lost brother. And so, you know, it clearly says in text 3, actually, you have not killed the Yakshas, nor have they your brother, for the ultimate cause of generation and annihilation is the eternal feature of the Supreme Lord. So, you know, we constantly are thinking, I am the doer, I am doing this, I have done that. But since, in this particular case, Dhruva Maharaj was being used as a tool for Krishna to partake in certain actions. He's a Kshatriya, so by nature he has to fight. And so he did, but then he got lost by anger in the process. But Kuvera is clearly saying that you are sinless. You're a sinless son of a Kshatriya. And so then Prabhupada says in this purport, you know, one may think like, oh, he's killed so many yakshas, how can he be sinless? But he had not killed any of the yakshas, therefore he was not at all sinful. He was just working as a vessel for the Lord. But this does not mean that we can spiritually bypass, right? So we can't just go out into the street and see people that we think are, you know, sinful or we disagree with, and then hurt them in some kind of way and say, it's okay, I'm just working as a tool for the Lord. You know, because in that case we're just using it literally as a means to justify our irrational thinking. So we should ultimately act non-violently, and you know, these are the qualities of a brahmana. Samodamas tapa socham kshantir ajavam evacha gyanam agyanam vigyanam astikyam brahma karma svabhavajam. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the brahmanas work. So, as you continue your Krishna conscious journey, naturally these different qualities will develop within you. That's not to say that we'll all become brahmanas, but we're aspiring to be Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. And these qualities must manifest within us to become authentic Vaishnavas. So, you know, peacefulness, self-control. So what I was saying before, we can't bypass and say, oh, I'm a tool for the Lord, and therefore this justifies me going out and being violent somehow. Because actually, our base core values is this harmlessness, is this purity, is this honesty, and is this wisdom. And so, yeah, we mustn't, we must stick strong to these qualities. And, this is why we have the whole conversation between Dhruva and Swayambhuva Maharaj, because, as much as, yes, he was initially doing his duty right as a Kshatriya, even though he's not a Brahmana, he's a Kshatriya, so Kshatriyas have different qualities to what we were just reading, he still took it too far and went beyond a point, like where maybe it would have been justifiable to kill like the Yakshas who directly killed his brother. However, he went overboard because he was consumed by anger, and he killed something like, was it 130,000 or something? So obviously this is now, you've broken out of that selfless service attitude, and now you're just consumed by I and my conceptions, and what follows the I and my conception is this was my brother, and my brother has been taken away from me, and so I'm going to avenge him because I've been wrong done by, and so naturally, I spoke about this in the previous class. Anger, is incredibly polluting, and anger is like if there's a flame and you continue to be angry, it's not going to. It's like desire, So if you feed desire, we think the desire goes away, but actually it just adds intensity to the flame of desire. So it's the same thing with anger, especially because going into anger is not going to solve the issue. You can't be in control. Only the Lord is in control. He's the orchestrator of everything going on. And so if you're trying to will a situation to be a certain way, you'll end up going to be embarrassed. Look at Hiranyakashipu, right? He wanted to seek immortality, and he went through all this severe austerity. So he's using the Lord's energy to take advantage of the Lord, essentially. And he came to Brahma and he said, Brahma, I want to be immortal. And Brahma said, well, I'm not immortal, Hiranyakashipu. I can't grant you immortality if I myself am not immortal. So then Hiranyakashipu goes, okay, well, make me invincible to weapons. I don't want to be killed by beasts nor humans. I don't want to be killed at daytime or nighttime. I don't want to be killed inside or outside. And so he tried to create all these barriers for him. So he essentially kind of tried to mimic immortality. But nevertheless, he was embarrassed by the Lord, no? The Lord killed him not as a man, not as a beast. He didn't kill him with a weapon. He didn't kill him at daytime or nighttime, and he didn't kill him inside or outside. So really, we just have to become empty vessels for the Lord. In a contrary, so Dhruva Maharaj was fighting too much, but then Arjuna didn't want to fight, and Krishna was telling him, actually, you do have to fight. So that both these contexts, the core principle is that it's not up to you, and your duty is not decided by your own intelligence, it's decided by God's intelligence. And so we have to surrender to a higher authority, because we are prone to being bewildered by the material nature. We can't trust our own knowledge, because that'll ultimately lead to, because we're still bound by the conception of I and mine and separateness from the Lord. And so if we use our own intelligence, we'll often go down a route that's more selfish. So yeah, we just must surrender to the Lord. And another example is, so Suniti then promotes Surishi's instructions, as I said, and then discusses Dhruva's great-grandfather, Lord Brahma, in his meticulous austerity and worship to gain the position of becoming a creator. Lord Brahma, in Canto 2, he's born out of the navel of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, and he can't actually even see Vishnu there. because Vishnu was probably behind the veil of Maya. So all he knew was he's in a little lotus pod, and he's surrounded by darkness and everything, and it's quite frightening to him, and he doesn't know what to do. And he might have some past credit to come to that position of being given the title Brahma, but nevertheless, only Krishna can remember his past, present, and future. And Brahma is a jiva, and he can't, so he doesn't know what's going on. But then he just hears, supposedly, a superior authority, Tapa, this booming voice from surrounding all corners. That's all he needed to hear. And with great faith and conviction, he spent years and years and years going through austerity until the Lord was pleased. And so there's two components to our success in bhakti, and that's our own effort, and that's Krishna's mercy. So we must first try our absolute best, but there's never a mechanical approach to bhakti. Like, we can't go, okay, if I, just chant extra rounds and all this stuff, then I'm guaranteed in 10 days to see the Lord directly. It's never up to us in that sense. Like, let's relate it to the beautiful month of Damodar and the pastimes of Krishna being chastised by Yashoda. And so when Krishna is finally caught, and he's been and Yashoda's trying to tie him around the mortar, and every time she tries to get the rope together, it's always 2 fingers short. And then she tries to get more rope, and still not working. And now, in the meantime, Krishna's noticing now Yashoda's going through a great effort to try and capture the Lord. She's perspiring, the flowers, garlands in her hair are starting to become droopy. And then she gets the help of all the other Matajis, and they all come, and they're all trying together. So then there's a collective effort. And then finally, when Krishna his heart is melting out of compassion for the great effort that his mother is going through to capture him, he succumbs and allows himself to be tied. And so, this is the process. We have to try as hard as we can by our own effort and our own endeavor, but knowing that no matter how hard we try, it's all up to the mercy of the Lord. Like, if I'm dressing Prabhupada and I'm trying to get every pleat correct, and I'm thinking that, like, ultimately it's up to me and my skill that's going to make it happen, but at the end of the day it's not. Or if I sit in a kirtan and I'm like going to try this really complicated melody, and and it's up to me, but it's not. It's all up to the mercy of the Lord. So we just have to come to the Lord as we are. And as we are entails all our usefulness, but also all our imperfections. And we go, here I am now, use me as you wish. And so then we be in service to the greatest of our capacity, as we are right now. And then, in time, by the Lord's mercy, we become more equipped for the service. So we become, we practice harder, and we become more skillful and useful, and we learn more savors. So therefore, Krishna, his heart is continuously melting for us, and he starts providing us more opportunities to come closer to him. You start from, like Prabhupada Seva, you start from even just picking up the mats, or you just, like, you might be the first time in the temple and you just like leave the door open for a devotee who's just leaving or something. The littlest things, you start from day one, just like, because I live at like an outreach program house, and we do kirtans twice a week, and there's some beautiful souls who come in, and they're really ready to get engaged, and they're like, oh, what can I do to help and stuff. I'm like, oh, just put the pillows out, like get the tea station ready, and all these little things, and that's their fullest capacity right there, is to do that. But then it's showing Krishna, oh, they're making some effort. And so the more they make effort and the more they consistently show up, because consistency is also another thing. You can, I did this whole week of savor, but then maybe you get disheartened because you're not receiving any mercy, or you're not getting what you expected out of it, because that you have that mindset. You're like, oh, if I do this, I'll get that. But it's never I'm going to do this, therefore I get that. It's bhakti is anya bilashita shunyam dhyana karma dhyanavartam anukulyena krishna shilanam bhakti ruttama. It's causeless. It's pure spontaneous affection and service towards the Lord. It's never a transaction. Prabhupada in his book Perfect Questions and Perfect Answers with Bob Cohen, there was this, I remember reading this one part, and Prabhupada just very strikingly said, no, that is a transaction. We're not in the business of transaction between the Lord. We're in the business of surrendering ourselves entirely and not expecting anything in return. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly in his embrace or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, because he is my worshipful Lord unconditionally. He's completely free to do anything and everything. So, I could spend years doing service and not have anything reciprocated. I mean, that's unlikely because of the nature of Krishna's personality and him being so soft-hearted. But we should just have this mentality of we're working towards total surrender, and total surrender means, it's not about feeling good necessarily. You should just feel good being, it's the beauty of being an insignificant servant. Like, I guess from a kami perspective, this can seem quite self-depriving or like diminishing, but it's beautiful. The art of bhakti is that the bliss is attained just by simply just having gratitude and love for your existence. And it's I heard something recently. So the analogy of like the impersonalists, they love to exist. So an impersonalist, they're like free from suffering. They have no identification with the body or the mind, supposedly, and they're just like situated in the Atma. And so they're just loving to exist, because they're like, oh cool, nothing affects me because I'm not this body, and nothing in this material world can hurt me, and I'm just like so blissed out in my Satchidananda, and it's great. Whereas the devotee exists to love. So they don't love to exist, they exist to love. So a devotee, Prabhupada has said that these other realizations come automatically through bhakti, because bhakti is the fountainhead, so therefore naturally you'll have a certain degree of realization of the impersonal view and the Paramatma view. And so the devotee understands the nature of the self and understands that they are like a unit of Satchidananda, but they seek a higher fulfillment in connecting their unit of Satchidananda with the grand reservoir which is Krishna. And so they exist to love. They exist to use their energy instead of just sitting in it and just experiencing what it's like to just be an Atma. They rather dive into that dynamic play between infinite and infinitesimal. That divine play of love where you actually become an integrated part of the Lord, rather than just, kind of sitting in your singular partness. It's actually quite interesting, because, the impersonalists, they're claiming that they're merging with God, and so they're becoming they're fully integrated, but in fact they're getting almost like it's the final layer of the illusion, because it's an illusion that you can become one with the Lord, and they're just Krishna's fulfilling that desire for them, so they become soaked in the Brahma Jyoti, but they're actually not, they're not becoming one with God. Like true oneness with God is obviously in the transcendental plane, which is Vaikuntha, and true oneness with God is oneness with heart. So it's is it Shri Guru Charane Rate Ese Uttamagati. So the Guru makes oneness in heart. Is that one of the translations of in the Thank you. So the Guru makes oneness in heart. So this is the oneness we're aspiring for as bhakti yogis, not an idea which is sprouting from the false ego of that I can merge with the God, because we can't. We're always individuals, past, present, future. Krishna has said this in the chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita. Never was there a time where I existed, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future will there ever be a time where we didn't exist. And he's clearly saying here in our individual essence. And so the true oneness is becoming completely absorbed in the will of the Lord. And the will of the Lord is to selflessly serve one another. I mean, the Lord selflessly serves us, so we just have to reciprocate. No matter whether you believe in God or not, in the morning the sun will rise. No matter whether you believe in God or not, you'll have oxygen to breathe. No matter whether you believe in God or not, you'll have water and food, and you've been given. We understand the darkness of this material plane, but also it's not so bad. Like, in the sense that Krishna hasn't created like some evil jail cell and just like shunned us to the side. We've had a desire, and Krishna's like given us full facilities to live out that desire. So Krishna is actually himself is a selfless servant of everybody. Everything is his energy, and everything he has proprietorship over, and he's just giving it freely to everybody. He's a beautiful, beautiful, benevolent, selfless Lord, and we atheists put their perverted mentalities almost like a mirror reflection onto the Lord, and they say, no, well, why did he create so much suffering, and why is there so much death in the world, and why is this and why is that? And it's like, but the Lord has nothing to do with that. He's created the facilities. Like, the Lord simply is just giving Brahma the energy to create, and everything is coming into creation slowly but surely through Brahma's engineering, and it's not like he's having any. He's like aloof from it. Like he's everything is him, and nothing is independent of him. But he's not involved in the nitty-gritties of it all. So we have to come to terms that we have created the suffering. Like we are the source of all this suffering, because suffering is a result of selfishness and separateness. That's why Vaikuntha is a perfected reality. It's perfect reality, because no one is selfish. There's no envy. As you'll hear later on in the chapter, I think around 32, 33 in the purport. There's no envy. You can't have envy in the Vaikuntha. It's all selfless, loving engagements. And that is the oneness, because everybody is oneness in the sense that they are all in agreements with the laws of the Lord, and they're all peaceful in that. And it's just a superior existence, like when you this is why so many people are attracted to Krishna consciousness, and I see so many people coming in, because the people you engage with, they're not engaging with you to get something out of you. There's everyone here, we engage with each other to empower each other, so we can be happier, more fulfilled, more properly directed, and that's That's the glories of the Krishna conscious movement. How are we going for time? Okay. Well, I had a bunch of stuff planned, but we've only got like 10 minutes left, so I'll read just the other lessons from this little book, and then maybe we'll just see if we can extract a couple more things out of that. So the second one, which makes a lot of sense as well in relation to the Dhruva's history, is one should tolerate insults without being disturbed, for such disturbance is a feature of illusion. So we've already kind of covered that you know, this you know, feeling insulted is coming from these I and my mentalities. And Narada instructs Dhruva in this philosophy in chapter 8, text 29. And Narada's talking from personal experience. So Srila Prabhupada, there was a little quote that they also added in this lesson from Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada said, an intelligent person therefore should always be satisfied depending on the mercy of the Lord. Because from this place, you can't be hurt by expectation, because conceptions of I and my and trying to control, you can be very easily disturbed from this point, because you have an expectation of how you think things should go because of your material, rational thinking. And so Narada's talking from his personal experience, because Narada, when he had darshan of the Lord, so his mother had just passed, and then he goes to head north, and as he's traveling, he becomes fatigued and tired, so then he takes bath, refreshes himself, and then he begins his meditation on the Paramatma. And then by, again, the mercy of the Lord, so we had his effort, and then now we have the Lord's mercy, he got darshan. And then he's experiencing all these ecstatic symptoms. Tears are rolling down from his eyes like torrents of rain, and each limb in the body is saturated with bliss, and all the hairs of his body are standing on end. And then just as quickly as Krishna appeared, he disappeared from the heart. And then Narada becomes very disturbed. In text 19, I desired to see again that transcendental form of the Lord, but despite my attempts to concentrate upon the heart with eagerness to view the form again, I could not see him anymore. He had expectations, because then he tried to sit back down, and he's like, okay, how did I do it? I was like this. I was like, it's like on this angle, and then okay, let's see Krishna again. Go. But you can't. It doesn't work like that, And then Krishna had compassion. He spoke to Narada, saying, I can't reveal myself anymore from this point. If we don't have, like Prabhupada said, we therefore are just satisfied depending on the mercy on the Lord, then we have complete satisfaction just being that selfless servant. We go about blissfully with our seva, and then, if we experience reciprocation in the process, then that's beautiful. But that's not what we're necessarily doing it for. We're not necessarily doing it so we can feel a certain way or have a certain darshan. It's more so falling in love with the service for service's sake, because you love the Lord, and it doesn't matter if he handles you roughly in his embrace or makes you brokenhearted by not being present before you. You're still going to do the service, and you're still going to be blissful. And eventually we will see the Lord, because we will develop the same consciousness as Vaikuntha, and the consciousness of Vaikuntha is selfless service towards everybody. You can't have Krishna by himself. You also have to have his devotees. So if you're, I love Krishna so much, but then you're just like mistreating the devotees, that you're not going to attain Vaikuntha. Krishna and his entourage, they all come together, and so with we have to learn to live harmoniously together, love one another, serve one another. Um, I may not be able to express ecstatic symptoms towards Krishna yet, but there are so many devotees who have like touched my heart so deeply, and I'm so grateful for them. Um, and and I could, sometimes I think I could take or leave Krishna, but I can't go without the devotees. Like they're just everything. They're so inspiring. They're so beautiful, and I see them on such a regular basis, and I feel like a deflated balloon without them. So, yeah, we have to love the people that Krishna loves, just as much. Um, yeah. So, like I was saying, I have a little quote. I'm sorry, I don't know where it's from. Oh yeah, I think the same chapter with Narada. Narada also says the process of the Lord is very wonderful. One who is intelligent should accept that process and be satisfied with whatever comes, favorable or unfavorable, by his supreme will. So that summarizes it much better than how I did, by his grace, Sri Narada. Yeah, and so I'll just quickly conclude by doing the other ones. I won't elaborate much, but they also said that this is another lesson from Dhruva Maharaj, one should begin devotional service at any stage of life, even childhood, for there is no precondition for practicing bhakti. Even if one is infested with material desires, one should undergo devotional service. And then Srila Prabhupada says, it is not a fact, however, that those who have material desires are prohibited from worshipping the Lord. This is the essential instruction from the life of Dhruva, because Dhruva was not desiring selfless service when he began his journey. He was desiring a kingdom. And in the process of devotional service, all desires evaporated or melted away in the fire of bhakti, leaving just pure love. But Krishna still had to reciprocate by saying, no, you wanted this, so I have to give this to you now. And so he had to spend some time being a benevolent king, which I think he did really well. And then the other thing they said, number 4, the object for meditation should be the form and name of God. So Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya was Dhruva's mantra. And he also worshipped a murti as well, externally. And then the final thing they said was one should be very determined to overcome all obstacles on the path of God realization and achieve success, liberation from material entanglement, and return to God. So yeah, these are the glories of Dhruva Maharaj. I'll finish now. Yeah. Any corrections, let the people in the room know now, so I haven't spread some misinformation. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Oneness. Yeah. Mm. Well, sadhana entails that, practice is eternal, but when you're practicing, you're not perfect. So you will, as much as you might be trying to do everything, you're obeying all the orders of the spiritual master and stuff, from my position at least, I'm just going to talk from my perspective. I try my best to do everything that Prabhupada has asked of me, but I still fall short sometimes. And so, from a position of being a sadhana bhakta, I'm not completely in oneness with God's will yet, but I'm aspiring. Yeah. Mm. Mm. Yeah. So that's why our vaidhi has to be perfect, and then we can start thinking about raga nuga bhakti. Krishna. Mm. Are you saying can a child do the same service as an adult? Um, Not necessarily. I think like some, even just like physiologically, some savers just require more like strenuous activity and motor neural skills and like um, Dhruv is a very special case, very very special case. Very, and this is why it's glorified so much in the Srimad Bhagavatam. But in general, children um, are in a preliminary stage of their journey, so they're just kind of getting a taste for chanting and whatnot. But starting from a early age is really important because it'll prevent you from accruing more conditioning. Because if you raise a child Krishna conscious, they're more likely to continue later on in life. But if you don't have it from childhood, you're most likely to go into Maya when you become a teenager or whatnot, and then it'll be very hard to go to Krishna after that. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Oh, the 9 different limbs of devotion. So Shravanam, Kirtanam. So hearing, chanting, remembering. Then there's like worship the deity externally. I don't know them all off by heart. You'll have to forgive me. Would you care to help me? I don't know. Yep. Yep. Vandanam. Mm. Dasya. Mm. Mm. Surrendering oneself entirely. Yeah. Jai. There you go. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Any more questions at all? Mm. 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 Well, if say we're a sports team and we all know what we have to do in order to execute a good match, if someone's falling short, they have to be corrected, like by the manager or the coach. Or so similarly, if we're in a managerial position and we all know what has to be done, we all know the like the process that we have to go and how we should act and the things we have to do. If we're falling short, we should be corrected. Like I would want to be corrected if I was falling short or doing something wrong. But it's about doing it in a way that's compassionate, not just considering one's emotions, not trying to dishearten someone too much. So it's kind of like a nice thing to do, a little compliment sandwich. Like I see you're trying very hard, but what are you doing? But you're doing great. So it's like, you know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's also good to meditate on the sincerity of the person that you're about to correct. So like, okay, were they just like genuinely being like, whatever, I don't care, because that's not a nice attitude to have and they should be corrected. But if they're sincerely trying and they're making some mistakes, then you can just gently nudge them in the right direction. Yeah. Okay, we're a bit over time. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premanandi Hari Hari.